What's up, YouTube? So here we are back with another how-to video. Enough of the talking heads. Let's get into actually doing some shit. I got this Bobcat here, which we did a video rebuilding the lift cylinders on. Today we're going to tackle the tilt cylinder on the bucket. It's been passing and it won't hold whatever I put in the bucket. It slowly drops. So I'm going to start with rebuilding the cylinder, and that's going to be today's video. So what we got, I still got the bucket on just because it positions the cylinder up a little better. This 91743 has a single tilt cylinder. Some of them have dual. So we're going to leave the cylinder body in the machine here, and we're going to undo the rod end cap. It just unthreads out, and then we'll disconnect the linkage here, pop that pin out. You can see that this pin has a little bit of play in it, so we might have a look at that and see if we can come up with a plan for that. But that's going to be our kind of goal for today. You can see a few little imperfections on the rod. I'm not going to worry about that. Basically, I'm just going to get the passing situation on the piston dealt with. So this rod cap has holes drilled into it for a pin wrench that you can use. I don't have one, so yeah, as you can see, somebody else has rebuilt this at some point in time and used a pipe wrench or something on it. So I'm going to do the same. Here's our kit. This is our seal kit that we got. It's an Amazon special. Yes, I know it's not the best, but whatever. It was 20 bucks. So if it fails, I'll buy another one. Comes with a nut. Comes with your rod seal, rod end seals here. So a dust seal, and then a seal to hold the hydraulic fluid in, and then all of your piston seals and bunch of crap in there. So let's get into ripping this thing apart. Actually, before we get into this thing, let's talk a little bit about hydraulic safety, because I've seen things go bad when it comes to hydraulics. You can end up with a situation where you have pressure trapped in the system between, say, a valve and the cylinder, just based on the way you have the machine positioned or the way that you've left the machine sit. And then say you go crack a line and you end up with a face full of oil. It's not a good time. Hydraulic systems can be extremely dangerous, and depending on the pressure that they're operating at, you want to be really careful that all the pressure is drained out of the system. So what I've done here is I left the bucket on for a reason. This cylinder is extended for the most part, and then I just got this jack here because when I go and break all this out here, that's going to want to roll. So I want to brace it so that it's not going to roll, but I also don't want to be working on the ground. So that's why I left the bucket on. It gets the cylinder up a little higher for me to work on it, and then I got my safety stand in there so that I know that there's nothing in this system that's going to hurt me. There's no pressure on the backside of this because once the system was down, I shut the machine off. I operated the foot pedal, the valve, back and forth a couple times. That relieves any pressure that might be built up on either side of the machine. One of the other things that I probably should talk about is the lift cylinders, but they're not going to go anywhere. If you're ever working on these machines and you have this boom, this part that lifts the bucket is called the boom. If you have this boom in an elevated position, your machine should have come with safeties that are a device that goes over this rod, and it acts as a hard stop between this part of the cylinder and this part of the boom, and that won't allow that boom to drop. So if we were to lift the cab up and I was working on, say, the motor or the hydraulic pump or any of the valve train inside this machine, I would want to put a safety here. That creates a hard stop for that boom, that if you were to open up a line or you were to do something that that would allow that weight and that hydraulic fluid to leave that cylinder, that boom would come crashing down, and you're not going to get out of the way fast enough. That will do some damage, and you will end up with a bit of a headache. So that's your hydraulic safety lesson for today. So we're going to loosen this seal first, get that backed off out of the way. I'm going to have a whole pile of oil, so I'm going to try and capture it somehow with a container of some kind, because this cylinder is full of oil, so there's going to be a few liters come out. And then we'll break that pin, pop that off, that'll all come out. Follow along.
Peaches in the summertime, apples in the fall. If I can't have the girl I love, then I won't have none at all. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I know. Shady Grove, my little love, I'm bound for Shady Grove.
Let's try this. Take this little pin. As you
Wish
can see,
I had a banjo string made of golden twine. Every tune I play on it, I wish that girl was mine. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, my darling, Shady Grove, my little love, I'm going back to Harlan. Wish I had needle and a thread, the finest I could sew. I'd sew that pretty girl to my side, down the road I'd go. Shady Grove, my little love, Shady Grove, I know. Shady Grove, my little love, I'm bound for Shady Grove.
Okay, so here's what we got. Pipe wrench didn't work. I've taken a couple 5/16 bolts and I turned them down to fit in there. One there. One there. Then we'll just join those together with a little handle, some scrap metal, weld up a little jig, and hopefully that will help loosen this. The seal looks pretty good here, but I suspect the piston is going to be no bueno. Let's weld this all up. There's our tool. Yeah, pretty close, but completely off. Yeah, that's gonna work. Let's go weld the fuck out of us. I'll be back. Yeah, it's not fancy, but you know, if it gets the job done, and you can see I just chewed out some clearance with the grinder there to spread around the rod. If it doesn't fit, we'll touch it up with the grinder on the pins a little bit. Try and keep them as strong as possible still. But let's see what we got. So close. Gotta get rid of a little bit of weld there. Last resort. It's moving. Let's get our little homemade tool in there. There we go. All right. That was a fight. Heat, a homemade tool, every other thing that I could find to throw at it without buying the proper tool. We finally got it. What ended up breaking it free was a brass drift that I made when I was an apprentice in machining school. You can see I ground it all up to make it fit. And a ball peen. Couple good cracks inside the pinhole. I got it to break free. So now let's get oil catch under here and then we'll thread that off the rest of the way. So right off the bat, I noticed that this is supposed to have an O-ring up here between the cap and the cylinder. And that O-ring is not there. And judging by the carnage on this cap that was here before I butchered it, this cylinder's been had somebody else inside of it before. All right, before I wreck my welding gloves, maybe I'll put something else on. There's gonna be a fair amount of oil in here. Backer washer. No good. Missing an O-ring here. This cap and seal looks okay. Okay, let's undo that pin. Pull this out. Try and do this without spilling oil everywhere because there's a lot of oil on the back side of the cylinder. Try and catch as much of it as we can. There we go. The nut piston, it's pretty rough looking. See, your piston there has seen some abuse. I would say that we're going to be in the business of making a new pin as well. Clearly a lack of lubrication on that. Well, that's how you take it apart anyway. Or how not to take it apart is more like it. That was a nightmare. Let's grab a flashlight and we'll have a look up inside this thing. Yeah, doesn't look too bad. Some shite. Some shite in there. But that's expected. All right, so there we have it. Just gonna change that seal. We're gonna change that seal. We're definitely gonna change that seal because that's the one I suspect that was passing a little bit. We'll clean that piston up a bit. The rod doesn't look too bad. We're going to impact that off. That'll allow that to come off. And then inside here, there's going to be a dust seal over here and an oil seal in there. And we're going to replace that bullshit. If you don't have a vise to get that nut off, you can see this piston is a little bit loose. If you don't have a vise, you can throw that end back in the bucket with the pin, then that'll hold it from rotating when you put the impact gun on here. Or you can throw it in the vise. This is what I mean. Pin back in, impactio on the end. Let's do that now. 1.5-inch socket. This thing was loose. I did it by hand very easily. I probably could have done it with a 1/2-inch wrench. That's not good. It is a locking nut. So in the process of looking over all my parts and pieces, I discovered a bit of a problem. Being that this rod is bent, and it's bent in here. It's bent exactly right there. See that? Try. That's not supposed to be like that. So, that's it for this video for now. I'm gonna change the seals here on this. Actually, before I change the seals and bother doing anything with this, I'm gonna see if I can get a new rod. I might screw around in the press and try and straighten that myself. But for now, we gotta do a little bit of thinking and see what we're gonna come up with for a plan forward. Hold tight. I'm not gonna lie, I think we got a little bit of the bend out. Still got a huge bend in it, but I think we might be okay. So now, what I'd like to do is focus from here over. Okay, so here's what we got. So what I did was I threw this on a set of rollers and I found where the wobble was with a dial indicator. So I used dial indicator, checked a few points along the shaft, carrying it, different points, and I found that the highest point of the bend was in between here and here. So what I just did was I put a little bit of press on it with my Princess Auto press, and I've managed to, this part here is now fairly straight. Now I've got a bend from here out. From that line over, it just kind of falls off. So what we're gonna do is now we're gonna support it here and here, and we'll shim that up, and actually we're gonna support it here and here because this will bend super easy. And we'll try and get this last little bend out. So if we throw the straight edge on there, you can see that we got maybe 20 thou. We got about 20 thou run out there, right at the end of the rod before it necks down to that next section. So let's go put another press on it. Basically what I found this afternoon, I did a pile of research. I looked for a new rod, and they're about $1,000 from Bobcat. I'll spend $1,000 on this thing, unless I have to. So I figured this rod here is garbage as it is, so why not spend a few minutes and try and straighten it out. See if we can get it within a couple thou, just hammering it around, pressing it around. If we can, great, then I'll put it back in and run it. I found that it was about 100, at the worst point, the bend was 165 thou run out. That would explain why this piston was A, loose, because it was being forced loose as it was going up and down in the cylinder, and B, has all that scarring on it. So if we can get this thing to within a couple thou of run out, I'll be happy with that. It's not a production machine. It moves snow around, it moves hay around, it digs the odd hole for me, and smooths out my driveway. So, it is what it is. I'm not gonna spend $1,000 on a rod. I did find a cheap aftermarket cylinder, but you're still looking at $500 or $600. So, last resort, spend the $500 or $600. For now, let's try and fix what we got. That's what it's all about. I do apologize, my shop is fairly congested, and I got my press tucked in the back corner over here. Obviously it's not a fancy press, but it does sort of accomplish what I need it to. So we're gonna put a press. This shit. I'm gonna pick it up there. Pick it up there. Put the press right there. Yeah, I did very little. So, same spot. I'm gonna keep working at that a little bit back and forth off camera. All right, so I did a press between here and right here on the end. And then I did another press kind of focused in here off camera. And I really am happy with how this came out. So if we just throw our straight edge on there, I mean, we're not perfect, but we're not 165 thou out. I would say that that's probably within 5 thou. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw the dial indicator on it, I'll pick it up where I know that the shaft is good, and then check run out where I know that it was bent. So, and by that what I mean is that I know that this portion of the shaft here is good. So if I set up my rollers here, I'm gonna force all of my run out over here, because that'll just swing around like this. Whereas if I pick it up here and say out here, now I'm gonna put the run out in the midst here. So it really doesn't matter how you check for the run out. Whatever your preference is, this is what I'm gonna do. All right, I'll show you on the camera what we got going on here. So we had around 165 thou. Jumping around a little bit. Dial indicators on a bit of a weak setup. We're looking at jumping around there a bit, but worst case is, say, 20 thou. So we went from 165 thou down to 20 thou on a press. That's not bad. Let's check it over here on the actual rod seal surface, not that rough machined surface. So here we're showing around 10 thou. Didn't zero the mic, but oh, falling off the end of our thing there. Rolling along here. Yeah, so we're about 10 to 15 thou. That's not bad from where we started. I think we can do better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean up all my marks. I'm actually going to clean up my wheels a little better because they're kind of rough. I actually got a set of V-blocks. Maybe we'll throw it in some V-blocks for a little more consistency, because I think we're getting some nastiness on our wheels here, and that's why my indicator's jumping around like it is. Grab my V-blocks. Looks like I pulled these things out of the scrap yard. Alright, that definitely feels a lot smoother right from the start. Let's see what we got going on here now. Okay, I'm going to show you the difference. How smooth that is. That's a lot better. We got 12 thou run out. That's pretty good. We got it down to 5 thou. Yeah, it's not ideal. But I don't care. I live with that. I'm not going to screw around anymore because I might end up getting to a point where I'm chasing it around. 5 thou here, end up pushing it around, right? And then you're just chasing it. So I'm happy with that. Saved a pile of money so far. We'll see. And let's go with that. Sounds like some sort of rodent behind me digging in my garage. That's not good. Okay, so here's our piston. We have a O-ring that goes in the bottom of that, and then the piston ring that goes on the outside. I'm gonna throw this in the lathe, and I'm gonna just kind of clean it up a little bit. It's I think it ran in there loose for a little while, probably because of 165 thou of run out or bend in the shaft. So I'm just gonna run some Scotch-Brite on the outside and maybe clean up where this nut lands here. Kind of, it's a bit chunky in there. I'll be right back. Now, if we wanted to get real fancy, we could put that in a little bit of warm water and it become a lot more pliable, which we may end up having to do. We want to be real careful when we're using our picks around the new one. Got an O-ring in there you don't want to wreck. You don't want to mark up the new piston ring. There we have it. So I just muscled it in there. That's that. So this kit came with a little tiny O-ring here. That's supposed to go down in there. But this kit is for a few different models, and you can see the size of the retainer nut that they sent and the original. And normally that little O-ring would seat there in the bottom of the piston, but it's too big. It doesn't fit. There wasn't one on this machine when I took it apart. It's not going to get one going back together. Okay, so whoever rebuilt this cylinder last time used some sort of green retaining compound, or maybe a Loctite sealant product or whatever. Anyway, there's some slight amount of residual from that in there. I'm going to take this over to the parts cleaner and clean it all up. Then I'm going to throw it in the lathe, and I'm going to clean up my markings. I'm going to make sure that that face there is nice and clean, and you can see all the shite up in here. One of these O-rings that came in the kit belongs there. This did not have one there when it came back, or when I pulled it apart. Whatever, is what it is. These seals here, if you watch when I did the lift cylinders, I made a quick little video. They're nightmare. They are a nightmare, period. No way around it. Nightmare. That dust seal actually doesn't look too bad. And to be honest, this seal doesn't look too bad either. It wasn't leaking, surprisingly, with the bend in that. With the bend that this thing had, it's quite surprising that it wasn't leaking. So the kit only came with one cylinder seal, but there's actually two. So I'm going to order another kit, and I'm going to replace this other one here, because this one here could have been part of my problem as to why this machine was why the tilt was passing. Maybe. Anyway, let's clean that up. Alright, I just cleaned up that face a little bit. Took a little skim cut on the outside here, washed it, made sure all the sealing surfaces are decent enough anyway. So, O-ring there in the bottom. You got this little flat washer. It's a backup O-ring. It goes to the outside in case you get pressure. If you get hydraulic pressure passing this point and it sees this seal, well, that just acts as like a little backup seal to this main sealing O-ring. Make sure there's no shite in there. Yep, that looks good. Now we just got to put them stupid little seals in there. The nightmare seals. Alright, so this has a lip here on this side. That goes towards the pressure. Pressure will act on that and helps create a tighter seal on the rod. So this seal goes on the inside. We're going to try and get it in here without zip ties and all that other bullshit. Let's see how it goes. Reason why a lot of people do this off camera is because, well, they don't want to see, they don't want you to see the struggle that it is to put these things in. Just like that. Seal to the inside. And then this one here, that's for dust. So you want your lip facing out. This side would be the outside environment. Dust, don't want it going in. That's not good for anybody's day. Especially your hydraulic pumps, your valves. And so what we got going on here is right there. So there's a dent, something between the bucket and this rod cap. Dent, because my seal doesn't want to go in. So I gotta do something about that. Let's see if I can straighten that out. How? I don't know yet. I'm gonna get a flat screwdriver and maybe try and pry it back without damaging that. Be right back. Alright, so we got that seal in there. I ended up prying it back. The dent, you can see a little bit there. I got all these warnings coming up on my camera. We got 4% battery left, so let's go over what we did. Replaced all the seals. Replaced the dust seal. Replaced the main oil seal inside. Dust seal had a little dent. I finessed it out with a screwdriver. Didn't do a very good job, but I managed to get the seal in there. So that looks pretty good. So we're basically ready to put this whole thing back together now. So we'll put the seal on. We'll put this rod end seal cap, whatever you want to call it, rod cap. Don't know, there are a million different names. I did find a little imperfection on the rod. I'm gonna stone that out, and then we'll put this back into the machine. But I have 4% battery left on my camera, now 3%. So I am going to go put this on charge. Alright, so we got a few little imperfections out of it. They're in an abusive spot. I'm gonna go clean that up in the parts washer. Okay, so it's on there. That is nice and tight. Wiper's working good. Just took a little bit of doing to get it on there. This part, that faces in. A little taper. We got our piston. Kind of wore itself a bit loose. I don't like. And then our nut. So I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on that. We're going to put this in the machine so that we can test fit everything, for one. So I should bring you with me. Ah, that's so much better. No play. Grab a little bit of Loctite. Of course, we're using the red. Put that shit on everything. Sure, this has a torque spec. Tight as we can get it. It was loose. It was loose when we took this apart. I don't want that to happen again. So I'll get some hydraulic oil, paint all that up. I've already cleaned up all this. Made sure that there's no burrs or anything. We'll shove all this back together. So because we got a new piston ring on there, we are going to be fighting the air a little bit. Okay, that's that. See what's going on over here. Okay, all we have left is to run that up and tighten that up. Sounds easy. But like this whole job, it's probably not going to be. Try our fancy homemade tool here. You can see we're gouged this thing, and we're actually quite a bit tighter than we were before. I'm sure I'll be cursing that later. We'll fire it up and see what we got going on. Okay, so that wasn't too bad, other than having to make all new stuff for in here, and bent rod, which we straightened. That was annoying, but fairly straightforward. Anyway, let's fire it up. Let's see what it does. No leaks, everything works smooth. I started giving it a little shot of grease, and then I ran out of grease, so I'm gonna have to pick some up this week. But everything seems to be working like it should. No need to bleed air out of these systems, it'll just work its way out. So I hope this video helped you. I hope you aren't afraid to tackle this stuff on your own. This one got away from us a little bit with the pit being worn out and the piston rod being bent, but that's all right. Made for a little bit of a challenge, and we got through it. So I hope you learned something. Talk to you later.